All right. Welcome in to First and Pod. Thanks to everyone who's watching live on the Scores YouTube page. Tell a friend. We do this twice a week, every game, every team, every week. He's Andrew Fillipponi, afternoons in Pittsburgh. I'm Danny Parkins, afternoons on the Score in Chicago, coming to you after a Thanksgiving week and a Sunday night game between the Ravens and the Chargers. Pony, you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. It was a little weird because of my father-in-law's back surgery. So we didn't really have full-blown Thanksgiving until Friday, but we had a mini Thanksgiving on Thursday. So I ended up with two Thanksgivings. Like a divorced kid that gets two Christmases, I got to eat turkey and mashed potatoes twice, so it wasn't bad.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
And he's recovering nicely, and his cause was helped out today by the way the Steelers performed, which put a big smile on his face.
Which we will get to in a minute. The Chargers are a marvel. Like,
yeah, the way that they hoodwink people like you into thinking they're good every single year.
Okay, fine. You bet them to win the Super Bowl last year also. So let's not pretend like you.
Yeah, but I warned you all of last year that you were going to fall for it again. Don't do it, and you did.
Okay, fine. Guilty as charged. The only team with fewer wins than them in the AFC is the Patriots. They have the same number of wins as the Titans and the Giants. Like, they are so much better than that. And that was a competitive football game against a team that I think is really good. I'm not sitting here saying that they're a great team or that they're a contender. They clearly aren't. But I still don't believe that they're in some sort of like need to tear it down. They're that far away from being good. Like, give them a new coach, give them a reset, give them a little bit of injury luck. And I still think that there's reason to be optimistic for like the 17 Chargers fans that actually exist.
I think Brandon Staley should be fired tonight. I don't think they have anything to lose by firing him. They're 4-7. They pretty much have to win out and then keep their fingers crossed that they get help. They need a spark or they need a change to attempt to salvage this season, which they probably won't. But look at what's happened with Buffalo's offense. Look at what the Steelers got today. Look at how the Raiders have played with Antonio Pierce. So I would do that immediately. I don't think Kellen Moore has done a great job as offensive coordinator, but I'd like to see him audition for the head coaching job over the next few weeks, see how that looks. And a couple other things. Their stars continue to let them down with mistakes, turnovers. Eckler fumble. Allen was great, but he had a fumble. Herbert was really good at times, but had a fumble. That just keeps happening to these guys. And what also was stuck in my head watching the game was if they had drafted Zay Flowers instead of Johnston, how much better they'd look. They'd have two pass catchers who get open constantly in Allen and Flowers, and that would really spell trouble for defenses who matched up against them. So maybe their GM should be on the hot seat too, Telesco, who's been there forever. And if they hire Belichick, that guy will probably lose his job. But I've talked to people there, Danny, who don't think they'll hire Belichick because the Spanos family has been so cheap on things. You go back to Marty Schottenheimer's, the last quote, big name coach they've had. Since then, it's been Norv Turner, Mike McCoy, Anthony Lynn, Brandon Staley. And there's real fear among the 17 Chargers fans that you mentioned that they're going to go with another nondescript guy when they fire Brandon Staley.
Listen, I'm so mad at Bill Belichick. I don't think you want him. Guy can't beat Tommy DeVito coming out of a bye. It's despicable. It's absolutely disgusting. I loved Zay Flowers taking that rushing touchdown in at the end of the game. Like the Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers angle was something I was thinking about as well. Spencer points out they could have also had Jordan Addison, but obviously but Johnston and Flowers were just back-to-back picks, one pick apart, and they clearly made the wrong choice. So I know it's like, act like you've been there before, just go down, the game's over. F that, man. He's a rookie. He wants to put up his numbers. He needs to get paid. And it's a statement that they drafted the wrong guy. I thought Flowers had an amazing game. I was happy for him to have his coming out party. And the Ravens, they're unbelievable. They just, every year, they come out with a great defense. And then they also, Lamar, they had the Sunday Night Football classic stat, although it was weird hearing Jason Garrett say it instead of Chris Collinsworth, where they had all of the like snap to throw next gen stat times. Third fastest snap to release game ever for Lamar. He is adapting, and as we predicted earlier in the year, getting better in the new system as the year goes on with the quick game stuff. That they're very, very dangerous. Still feels like they're a weapon away from being explosive offensively, especially with the Mark Andrews injury. But they're in a wide open AFC. I believe they absolutely could come out of it.
In the year of the defense, they are the number one defense, and they flashed all those numbers that even compare in some ways, measure up favorably to the 2000 Ravens, which is crazy to say out loud, especially in this day and age in the NFL, which is supposed to be skewed offense. They've led after 3 quarters in every game. The 2007 Patriots didn't even do that, but they found a way to lose 3, including 1 to my Steelers. I thought if Justin Tucker, that missed field goal on 4th and 1, if they lose the game, you come back and you think about that. Why didn't they go for it? They could have kicked a field goal at death.
That was a really dumb field goal, though.
It was. You just think Tucker's automatic. He missed it.
But going up 6.
Yeah, I didn't like it. Yeah. I didn't like it either. So, yeah, I mean, they're still in contention here for the number 1 overall seed. And they've got a defense right now that is setting all kinds of records.
All right, let's get to the games. Bills and Eagles, arguably the game of the year. We could do a full 45-minute post-game pod on that game alone. What was your top takeaway?
That Hurts didn't look healthy to me. Probably looked from an injury end of things as bad as I have seen him this year. And I thought, as I was watching that game, trying to get my thoughts together for the podcast, I'm like, if they lose and if it looks this way, I'm going to come on the air and say that I don't know if Jalen Hurts is going to be healthy enough for the Eagles to make it back to the Super Bowl. But the dude grinded it out. He made monster plays. The touchdown he threw to Zacchaeus on 3rd and long reminded me of the Alabama touchdown from Saturday against Auburn, where, you know, I just thought, what are the odds that this play is actually going to happen? And he fit it into the perfect spot there. So, and Jason Kelsey's block on his overtime touchdown run, just that dude is an ageless wonder who's going to end up in Canton one day. They've trailed at halftime in 4 straight games, and they have found ways to win those games, double digits to the Chiefs and Bills. And because of who they played against, you know, there might be some teams that if they were doing this against the mediocre teams or dregs of the NFL, I'd want to dock Philly. But because they've been able to come back and beat the Chiefs and Bills and haven't looked great in the process, I don't want to ding them for it. I actually want to give them more credit. So they earned a lot of my respect. You know, I've looked at Philly as maybe a team that's not as good as their record all year. Now I'm starting to come around to the fact that they just find a way to win games, and they're doing it against great teams or talented teams.
Yeah, talented teams. I don't think the Bills are a great team. I don't think Philly is as good as their record. I mean, again, we saw them get torched through the air, and I still think their pass defense is vulnerable. I think Detroit would put up huge numbers against them. It might be a loss. It might be a loss. But I think that they would score a ton of points against them. That game would be a shootout, and I would bet San Francisco against them comfortably.
Well, you're going to get a chance to do that in 7 days because that's next week. And by the way, the line's already out. The game's in Philly, and San Francisco's favored by 2 points.
Yeah, that is a hammer spot for me on San Francisco. Josh Allen in that game. How many people in the world could have played that football game today? I thought he was incredible. Like, I feel like Lamar could have done that. Maybe Hurts could have done it on a more vintage Jalen Hurts passing game. But the level of playmaking and improvisation and leading the team in rushing and throwing for 340 yards and the conversions and the off-scheduled throws and the power. I thought he played such an incredible game, overcoming drops.
Yeah, but he had the turnover that got Philadelphia
know.
back into it. It was a terrible interception.
I know, but he's asked to do everything for them, man. And he basically did. I don't know. To me, he played a game today where he lost, and it was kind of like the 13-second game against Kansas City, where he scored and then there was nothing else that he could have done. And he gets the loss, and in the QB wins or wins a quarterback stat level of analysis that sometimes happens. Oh, this is a loss for Josh Allen in a big game on a big stage. And he played more than good enough to win. I thought he was incredibly impressive today. And it might not matter because they're on the outside looking in for the AFC playoffs. But that Josh Allen is a guy that nobody wants to see in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, I agree with that last point. I mean, if they were the 7 seed, they would be a dangerous, probably the most dangerous 7 seed since they went to this format with the teams that we've seen that have backdoored their way in. But they didn't have any margin for error. And so I have a hard time giving Josh Allen plaudits because he got them into this spot. You know, if their record was 7-3 and they lost, then I think you could come away from this game thinking you didn't win, but you gave Philadelphia everything they could handle at home. That's a championship type effort.
Oh, he's deserved some of the criticism he's gotten this year. I'm just saying today in this game, in that spot, he was incredible.
But what I'm saying is that the Bills, by getting themselves into this spot, they don't have room for moral victories or for patting guys on the back for individual efforts anymore. That time has come and gone. You know, if this game were in September, I think I would have been in the mood to do exactly what you did or what you said. But they left themselves the impossible dilemma of pretty much having to come close to winning out against a ridiculously hard schedule. So, like, I think I watch this game and I will give them more of a chance in some of these tough matchups in the last few weeks. But I feel again like their season ended on the turf in Philadelphia tonight, and they have no one to blame.
It might have. I guess. Sure, you're talking about a team thing. I think I'm talking about an individual thing where, like, when we rank the top quarterbacks in the world and like whose best is best, Josh Allen's best is pretty damn incredible.
Next up, we've got the Jags and Texans here. Do the Jags have a shot at the top seed in the AFC?
We have to say the answer to that question is yes. Like,
no, we don't.
Well,
we can say whatever the hell we please on this podcast. We're under no obligation to kowtow to teams.
It's not about kowtowing. Like, I look at them and I think that Baltimore is better, and I think that Kansas City is better, and I think that they are clearly a tier 2 AFC team that if they played Miami 10 times, they'd maybe win 4 or 5 of them. Like, they're a coin flip to be the 3rd, 4th, or 5th best team in the AFC. But they have won 7 of their last 8 games. Their next 2 are Cincinnati and Cleveland, one home, one road. Then they get Baltimore, but it's at home. Then in Tampa, home against Carolina, in Tennessee. They absolutely could go 5-1 or 6-0 down the stretch, which puts them in the 13-14 win conversation. So I don't know how you could make the argument that they can't get the top seed in the AFC, given how it sits today and what their schedule is remaining.
Well, the argument against it is they got to finish ahead of Kansas City unless it's some kind of 3-way tie where some other tiebreaker besides head-to-head factors in. And so if you got to compare both team schedules and find a way where Jacksonville wins one more game than the Chiefs between now and the end of the year. And I do think that's hard to do. I don't trust them. I thought what they did today, I didn't predict Jacksonville to win. The guy missed a 58-yard field goal, a backup kicker. but Lawrence did make some really big plays. The end of the first half thing I thought was going to come back to bite them when they got stopped at the goal line with no time left and didn't come away with any points. But I also don't think it's out of the question that they go 3-3 in their last 6 games. I like their chances now. I think they're basically a mortal lock to win the AFC South, but I still think they've got a mountain to climb with Miami, Kansas City, and Baltimore. My bet would be there's a better chance they have the worst record among the 4 division winners than the number 1 overall seed.
Would you have now? So he hits the crossbar on the 58-yarder. Would you have kicked it or gone for 4th and 12 with Stroud?
No, I kick it there. With the way kickers make it indoors, with the way those guys make kicks down 3.
It was just a clear career long for the guy.
Josh Allen, huge sack, which created that whole thing. That was a big play by that guy who was having a very low-key season. The second Josh Allen, 12.5 sacks for them.
Stroud took 2 sacks on the last drive.
Yep.
The first one
our
he overcame,
MVP bet.
The second one he didn't.
Our MVP bet took a hit there.
I don't know, man. He had a great statistical game. Now Hurts doing what he did and Mahomes doing what he's doing hurts us, but I still think that bet is live, to be honest.
Okay, Giants and Patriots. You've worded this question this way: how did you, meaning Danny Parkins, let your survivor chances come down to Mac Jones on the road?
Dude, so I'm disheveled. So me and a bunch of dudes from like grade school and high school, like my old friends, had 6 entries in the Circa Survivor. $6,000, $9.3 million, winner take all. Obviously, if multiple people survive, you can split it up. There were 2 winners who split the pot last year. We had 1 entry alive out of 149 left. And you have to pick, it's a 20-week contest. Thanksgiving's its own week. Christmas is its own week. We have Philly in the chamber saved for Christmas because they got the Giants at home. So we've got a fairly valuable entry because we've got a premium team for the next toughest week. We had Dallas saved. So we dodged the Detroit bullet on Thanksgiving, which killed, basically 60% of the remaining entrants, brought us down to the final 150. And dude, I'm not kidding. From the second half of the Cowboys game through Saturday at like 2 p.m. when we made our decision, there were 1,500 plus texts in our group chat on Thanksgiving and Black Friday debating this pick. We eliminated the Titans because we knew they were going to be super popular, and they were. They were the most popular pick, and we just thought that was a flimsy majority pick. We did not think the Patriots would be nearly as popular as they were, and they were the second most popular pick, which was disgusting when it came out. But we figured Bill Belichick off a bye against Tommy DeVito. We figured that was the spot, and the sharps agreed with us. And it got bet up. It was the biggest favorite on the board today at kick, other than the Chiefs game. That was available. It was the biggest favorite of the non-Chiefs game. 4.5 points. And 3 turnovers, 2 in field goal range. If they would have started Bailey Zappi, they win that game. But the most disgusting part about it is we ended up having to do power rankings of our votes ahead of time. And I made an impassioned case for your Pittsburgh Steelers. Bengals run defense, the Matt Canada's fired bump, Browning against the Steelers defense, no future value in Survivor. And I got no support. No support. I couldn't get another person to rank them in their top 4, and I ranked them number 1. And so my top choice advanced, and the choice that we ended up going with.
So were you mother effing your friends all afternoon?
Yeah. And I was getting praise.
Yeah, hollow praise, though, at this point.
Very
man.
hollow
reimbursing
praise.
You for your entry.
Very hollow praise. But, dude, we'd be in the final 120 right now with a pretty premium entry. I mean, like, obviously we're still a long shot, but dude, how do I let Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi get me? And by the way, Bill Belichick's dead to me. As far as I'm concerned, he's not a Hall of Famer at this point.
I don't know how good Mac Jones was going to be. Probably not great, but they have absolutely ruined him with the coordinator crap last year. But he was good his rookie year, objectively, inarguably good his first season. As far as rookie seasons go, you grade that like a B+, A- rookie year. And then to let McDaniels walk and to have the Patricia Judge experiment. Bill O'Brien hasn't worked. The guy's broken. He's gotten yanked out of so many games. He's brought a lot of it out himself. But you've heard guys like Dan Orlovsky say, if Mac Jones were the Browns quarterback right now, they'd be an absolute lock to make the playoffs. They'd win double-digit games going away. There might be some truth to that. The guy's never developed a quarterback other than Brady, and I think Brady would have been good probably anywhere if given the opportunity. So just brutal. Yeah, I mean they're actually doing cartwheels and backflips though in New England. They're ecstatic that they lost the game, and they even think that there was a code red, and the kicker was told to miss that kick on purpose. Danny,
I'm not going to get over that one for a long time. Like, just so you know, like that, like a long time. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. This stat blew my mind.
Okay,
how do we do this show and you haven't told me that the Steelers hadn't had more than 400 yards of offense in a game in 58 games?
And it was 45 under Canada. I've mentioned that several times, but I think a lot of the times when I just start ranting about the Steelers, you start to tune me out.
That's possible.
Because you know that I'm just going to go on.
58 games.
Yeah, that's why I've made it a cottage industry to tear down this human being and basically character assassinate him for the better part of 3 years. Now do you get why I did that? I was nervous today, though. I wouldn't have backed you on that pick because I didn't think we were going to see the Steelers have a new offense. I mean, they completely in 7 days went back to the drawing board and reinvented the wheel here. To mix metaphors. I mean, that's what they did. They started the game with play action. They threw over the middle. They don't do either of those two things. They haven't done either of those things for 2+ years. They got their tight end involved. Freiermuth, who came off a hamstring injury, had over 100 receiving yards, was their most targeted guy. Najee Harris went for over almost 7 yards a carry. Pickett looked poised. He looked really good. He looked like the guy that I was borderline orgasmic for in the preseason. He was back to being that quarterback. He threw for almost 300 yards today. The only reason why his passer rating wasn't higher was because Deontay Johnson's touchdown in the end zone got overturned. He was excellent. So there's a reason here. This was not a fluky win. You might look at the final score if you didn't watch the game and think 16-10, same old Steelers. They won with defense and they played an ugly game. No, they moved. They were in Bengals territory pretty much the entire game with long drives on the ground and in the air, a lot to build off of here. And now their schedule is so easy the rest of the way, the second easiest in the conference. They're going to really have to trip and fall on their dinghy here to not make the playoffs, Danny. It's going to take a collapse of epic proportions to not get there.
But aren't you now in a tough spot because you were out on Kenny Pickett?
Well, yeah, but I might, I told you I didn't think he was a bust yet. So
yeah,
I was out.
He's not a bust, but you're out. But now Canada's
out.
out.
But when I said he was out, the coordinator change hadn't happened, and they had never fired a coach in season ever since World War II. So I didn't really have that on the table. It's a realistic possibility to get their quarterback out of the rut and funk he was in.
All right. I'll allow it.
Next up, Chiefs and Raiders. Did the Chiefs wake up today?
So they hadn't had a second half touchdown in a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have this offensive explosion. And listen, I mean, it was a game where Rice played well.
Long touchdown.
And Travis, but also 10 targets. Like Pacheco.
I didn't
And
see that stat. Wow, that is a lot for him.
like it was not a game where it felt like they needed Travis Kelce, which is what the majority of Chiefs games have felt like. He's going to blow away everybody in targets. He is the focal point of the defense and the offense. And if it works, it's great. If it doesn't, they're in big trouble. This actually felt, Pacheco got 15 carries. They had a real commitment on the ground. He gets in the end zone twice. He also was targeted a ton with the patented Andy Reid screen game. Like it felt much more balanced.
It felt like a typical Chiefs Raiders game to me. The Raiders have a history here in the last few years of at least in one game per year, giving the Chiefs a test. They got up 14-0, and then Kansas City responded, and they did a lot of the things that you just described. Like, my gripe with the Chiefs for so much of the year has been, yeah, their defense has been phenomenal, way better than any of us expected, but they don't look like the invincible Chiefs where their offense is a cheat code or as a video game offense. Well, it did in the second half of this game. And so that's what would give me, if I'm a Chiefs fan, some assurance that they're going to take what they did in this game and it's going to translate to future games. Like, you're right. They, in the second half of this game, for the first time in a long time, they looked like a vintage Chiefs offense where there was trickery, there was creativity, there were other guys getting involved. It worked. So something to build off of for them for sure.
Half-baked idea. Maybe this isn't the best time to do this as we're trying to keep this thing moving. Jason Kelce is talking about how he, maybe doesn't have much time left playing in the NFL. They've got this burgeoning media empire, the Kelce brothers do. Travis Kelce is traveling internationally and dating the most famous woman in the world. Any chance the Kelce brothers retire together in the offseason so they can go into Canton together? First brothers ever to be inducted in the same year in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I think that's entirely possible. Yeah.
That both Kelce's retire.
I bet they've talked about it with each other.
It'd be cool.
Did somebody tell you that or did you literally just come up with that?
No, I thought about it. I was thinking about it today.
That's one of your better ones, bro.
Thanks, bro.
I like that one a lot.
I think that'd be a cool thing. That'd be kind of fun. All right.
Thanks, Panthers and Titans. The owner of the Panthers, David Tepper, is reportedly furious. Now, when you say reportedly furious, are you talking about this viral tweet of him just screaming
yes,
F-U-C-K after
yes
the game ended?
Leaving the locker room after the game, shaking his head and yelling the F word.
Okay.
That is my report, yes.
And then you wrote, what could he have expected?
Everybody seemed to know that this was going to be really, really ugly. And it has been really, really ugly. Now, I was wrong.
Yeah, you said they were going to be an average team this year with a chance to win the division, and you weren't that far off. I think their win total in Vegas was 7.5.
They won 7 last year.
They were expected to be an average team this season.
Well, they're going to fire their coach, and they don't have a first-round pick, and it's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. So what move does he have on the chessboard? Like, it's not going to be a good job for whatever coach comes and gets the job, because it will look like, okay, it's got a quarterback attached to it that has huge question marks. It's got an owner who reportedly meddles, and there's no job security or patience for an established head coach with an all-star coaching staff. So I don't really see a way out of this box for them. Now, we said the same thing about Denver last year, and we'll get to them in a little bit, that they were in the worst situation you could possibly be in the NFL. And then it looks like Sean Payton has turned that thing around. So maybe you just hire the right coach and that's your first step towards it. But I feel like Frank Reich is going to get fired, and I feel like it's going to come across as desperation. and they probably are in trouble for years to come.
I wouldn't do it. I'd run it back with all the offensive minds that they have there. I would give it another shot. I think what's happened here, the reason why, and look, I've seen some of their games. We all watched that awful Thursday night game between the Panthers and Bears, and it was amplified and made to look worse because of the trade that happened, that going up for him and giving up the wide receiver too and all that business. If Stroud isn't a stud, I think that the global response to what's happened in Carolina could have been, this is just the natural growing pains of a number 1 overall pick. Now, I know they weren't the worst team in the league the season before, so it wasn't, as you pointed out several times, it wasn't as if he was walking in to one of the worst situations in the entire NFL. But I do think it would be wise of them to look at not what's happening in Houston, but other number 1 overall pick quarterbacks and how their teams performed and how they did in their first year. And just, what I'm saying is, I think it could actually make the situation worse.
Yes.
If you try to hire a new coach and force a new system on Young and everything else this offseason. I don't think Frank's a great coach. I don't think he's as bad as their record is this year, though. And I would just try to run it back next year and hope for better results with better players.
Listen, I think that you're right. I think that continuity might be the play, given that there is no salvation there in terms of like a draft pick or an obvious superstar head coach to take the gig. But he doesn't seem like the type of guy who will do it.
No.
All right, next game. I just alluded to it. Denver and Cleveland. The Broncos have won 5 straight. Packers, Chiefs, Bills, Vikings, Browns. Should Sean Payton be the coach of the year?
Okay, so gun to your head right now. I didn't look at the odds before we came on. I didn't cheat.
They're not posted, at least at one site right now.
Okay, who do you think should be the favorite to win the you asked, does he have a shot? Who would you install as the favorite to win coach of the year at this very moment, this second?
Mike McDaniel. I think Mike McDaniel, DeMeco Ryans, Sean Payton,
Kevin O'Connell,
and Kevin O'Connell are the 4 guys that I could realistically see winning that award. And
how about Nick Sirianni?
I mean, like if they finished 15-2 or something, I guess you got to say that he's got a shot at it. But I'm going based on how that award normally is, which is like overachieving. So if like they're in the Super Bowl last year, it almost like it
I hear you.
invalidates you from winning the award. And I gotta say, man, like of those coaches, Sean Payton is arguably the most surprising, even though he's by far the most accomplished. We thought they were dead. Completely dead. And like Houston, we didn't see it coming, obviously, but superstar quarterback makes a lot of people look good. Miami was very trendy, and O'Connell is surprising given the Cousins injury and the Jefferson injury, no doubt. But what Sean Payton, this is a shocking turnaround that is not getting a ton of attention nationally for some reason. But this is not, they haven't beaten bad teams.
No, it's a pretty impressive winning streak when you just rattle off those names. They haven't feasted the conference in the division they're in, even though the Chargers and Raiders aren't that good, but they haven't played them during this winning streak.
No,
it doesn't
every team they've beaten as of now either is in the playoffs or thinks they still have a shot at the playoffs, like Buffalo and Green Bay. So this is becoming real, man.
I think the reason why that might be with Peyton is because I still think there's the expectation that they'll miss the playoffs. That with the schedule they have and the way that they dug themselves a hole in the AFC that they won't eventually get there. Regardless, it's getting close to being an A-plus coaching job. And I don't just mean from the depths of where they were in season, because that counts. I mean, what they did in September or didn't do, giving up 70 points, losing at home to the Jets, that's on Sean Payton's record this year too. He doesn't get a pass from those things. But I didn't think Russell Wilson was going to rebound like this. I didn't think that he was going to find a way to get Russell to play super efficient football. He's on the move again. He's making plays with his legs to throw the ball downfield. If they don't blow that game to Washington in week 2, they'd be in position to they'd be a playoff team right now. So they got bad luck in that game. So I agree with you in that it's kind of under the radar, which is strange because Peyton is such a media darling. And
they're so high profile.
Love him. Yeah. He was so media friendly, what he did at Fox and everything else last year. So in that way, I think you are right. But I thought in September that they were going to end up being one of the 3 or 4 worst. I thought they'd be where the Patriots are right now. One of the worst teams in the NFL with a coach who looks like the game has passed him by.
All right, we're falling into old habits. Let's speed up here down the stretch.
Okay, Saints and Falcons. 800 plus yards of offense. How the hell did that game go under? I watched that game. Turnovers is what happened. The teams would drive it in. They'd get to the red zone and there'd be a fumble or an interception. There's your answer.
Okay, that is correct. That is the answer, right? Saints lost the fumble, and then there were 3 total interceptions. 1 by two by Ritter and 1 by Carr. But just if you're a Saints fan, you won time of possession. You had 444 yards of offense. You had 22 first downs. You only committed 6 penalties. You only had 1 punt. And you scored 15 points?
Didn't score a touchdown. Those are all field goals, too.
That is a sickening loss. If you're
you're not in first place anymore now. Atlanta passed you up, too.
Yeah.
And they had Ludacris propelling down from the roof of the stadium to boot to rub it in your face.
And Olave got hurt. Yeah. That is a sickening loss if you're a Saints fan.
That being said, I still think they come back to win the division.
I tend to also. Because Ritter is clearly not the answer. But hey, by the way, giving the ball to Bijan Robinson a lot. Good strategy.
Not a bad idea. What's the line for Saints-Cowboys wildcard weekend? Let's predict it right now on November 27th and see how close we are when it happens in January.
Dallas by 6.5.
That was the first number that popped into my head, but then I thought it was too high, and I thought maybe it would be more like 5 or 5.5. But yeah, it'll be more than a field goal for sure.
Okay.
Tampa Bay and Indy. Would you call Indy good?
There's so much mediocrity. They're over 500.
Mm-hmm.
They drive down the field late and execute. I feel like when Minshew isn't turning the ball over, they're good. I feel like they're good. They're not great. They're not a threat. They're not scary. But if they play clean football, they're pretty damn competitive and multifaceted.
How about their coach for Coach of the Year, Steichen, there to have them 6-5 after Richardson got hurt? That's not a bad coaching job, Danny.
It's not a bad coaching job, but the other ones are better. I mean, It's just I just sure put them in the conversation.
Same record as Houston. They beat them head to head.
That's true. That's true. Expected to be better, but yeah, that's true. That was an impressive finish to the game by them and another team that we considered in Survivor and didn't take that won.
Their schedule is going to get them, I think, to 9 wins. I think the best thing that happened to the Colts today, in addition to winning the game, 2 things. Browns more quarterback problems with DTR getting hurt and Walker having to go in, and the Chargers losing. I mean, because the Chargers look like they're out of it. You've got the tiebreaker on Houston. All of a sudden, it doesn't. It's not a crazy thought to think that they'll make the playoffs at 9-8.
Speaking of 9-8,
Yep.
the Rams are 5-6. They blew out the Cardinals today. They've won 2 straight. 4-2 gets them to the aforementioned 9-8. They've got Cleveland at home, at Baltimore, home against Washington, home against New Orleans, and then they end with 2 road games. But one is at the Giants, and then the last one is at San Francisco, who very easily could be locked in to the 1 or 2 seed by that point. Does 4-2 get the Rams into the playoffs? Do they go 4-2 or better down the stretch?
So I've been on this for a couple of weeks now that I think that they've got a shot. I told you before the season I love them to go over 6.5, that people had buried them and left them for dead because of how ugly last season was. They should be a lock to get at least 7-10. I would be stunned. They would need Stafford to get hurt again. They'd have to play Wentz maybe for that not to come home. I think their issue is that what looked like a meaningless game where they started Brett Rippon and lost at Green Bay. I think that might end up being the difference between them making and missing the playoffs. A game that was like, oh, Green Bay sucks. The Rams are down to their backup quarterback. This game there's no meaning to it. It's going to have no bearing on things. I think in the end, it probably will now. I think that's why they won't make the playoffs, Danny, because they'll lose the tiebreaker to Green Bay.
That's certainly possible. The Thursday game before Christmas, Thursday, December 21st, Rams at home against the Saints. That could have big NFC wildcard implications. Last one before. Oh, no, that's it. All right, 4 Thanksgiving games that we didn't get to react to. Biggest takeaway from the Thanksgiving games, including Black Friday?
I thought it was the Lions losing. I think that game, not only Detroit losing, I still think they'll win the division. I still think they'll hold off Minnesota, but I've lowered my expectations for them. I no longer look at them at the moment as a Super Bowl contender. They shouldn't have beaten Chicago. They got they got their comeuppance against Green Bay. We'll see how they rally from this and how they respond. But really, 2 bunny home games, easy home games against division teams, and they nearly blew both of them. So I have to seriously discount them now as a threat. And then I think, like I just mentioned with Green Bay, the way Jordan Love has played the last month, they look like a team now that can get to 9 wins and be that 7th seed and feel like their quarterback deserves a look in 2024.
That was mine. That was the word going into the year, that the Packers are patient and that they were committed to it being a 2-year test for Jordan Love.
And that offense is so young, and they did it without Aaron Jones. I mean, that was a really good win for them.
He's stacking good games, man. Like I hate to admit it, and I'm still hopeful that he'll be just good enough for them to fall in love with average. Even though I want them to have like worse than average for a long time, but he is settling in and stacking good games. That was my top takeaway, that he will be the Packers quarterback for 2024. And then I don't know if you watched all of Jets Dolphins, the Black Friday game. I admittedly was in and out. It did feel a little bit like we got a glimpse of the future, though, of broadcasts. Like, I don't know how much you read about it, and I know we've seen some of it on the Thursday night games with the pop-up QR codes for, buy this guy's jersey from Fanatics or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot more pop-up QR codes and targeted ads. Like, my commercials were not the same as your commercials if we're both Prime members. That they were curating the ad experience based on if you were a Prime member or not, based on your search history, based on your preferences, based on
my search history. Oh God.
based on like your Amazon search history,
okay.
like products that you have purchased.
Well, even then, even in that situation, not the best.
Yeah. It's just like, I was like, oh my God, man. It felt like, I mean, live sports we know this, they're the last truly valuable thing because people don't DVR and they don't fast forward and they actually consume the commercials. But you're watching sports in the place where we all shop, and on the biggest shopping day of the year for the biggest website that we shop at for the year, they just get 15 to 20 million people to hang out on their service for 3.5 hours as a captive audience. And they just start pummeling us with, oh yeah, I do need that. I do need wrapping paper. I do need golf balls. I do need that. You know what I mean? Like that's why they spent $100 million for that. And I think in 5 years, we will be like, obviously this is not going away. I just think in 5 years, we will be talking about how the NFL owns another day of the week or another event like the NBA with Christmas. And it will be the NFL Black Friday and shopping. And it's going to become a huge thing in like the advertising, marketing, curated viewer experience space.
Well, the NBA doesn't even have a monopoly on Christmas anymore because the NFL's got 3 games.
Yes.
On Christmas again this year, and I know what I'll be watching. So
yes, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm just saying we associated that holiday with the NBA for a long time.
They get their hooks in you. I guess if I'm going to look at it more broadly, I just think in the next probably 10 to 15 years, there's going to be, I think there's going to be more than a Thursday night game on a platform like Amazon. There might be a whole package of games on a Sunday, where instead of doing it the old way of like AFC and NFC and 2 network split conferences on Sundays, I think they're going to get another network, another one of these platforms or networks involved. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. I think that, I mean, obviously that's where all the money is, but they just have, I was reading a little bit about it. I'm like, oh, okay, of course. Of course. They just want people on their shopping site for 4 hours on the biggest shopping day of the year. That makes sense. It's probably
a better game next year. All right,
but that was supposed to be an awesome game.
Yeah, because of Aaron Rodgers.
You're right. Supposed to be an awesome game. Like so I think that it was supposed to be an awesome game, and next year it'll also you know what I mean? And maybe a guy will get hurt or not, but that's just bad luck. All right. Thanks to everyone who watched on YouTube. Do us a favor this holiday season. We don't ask for much. Tell a friend, give us a subscription, share a link, help spread the good gospel that is First and Pod. Thanks to Spencer Ray, our producer. Pony, I will talk to you after Cowboys and Seahawks.
Yes. Enjoy Bears and Vikings tomorrow, Danny.
See you, dude. I will try. Peace.